your workshop covered questions to ask NGOs if you are considering funding them. What, in your opinion, is the most important question that grant makers should be asking NGOs?
Okay, out of a multitude of questions that need to be asked as a part of the due diligence process that we need to go through, I think the fundamental one that we need to ask is the community involved in the program? Is the community involved, and is the project addressing the community's priority needs? That's the most fundamental question that you can ask of your NGOs.
And why is that the most important question? Some people might think it is how many people they are supporting, or any other of those questions. Why is that one the most important?
It's because you need to be addressing the community's priority needs. You know, if I can give you an example, putting computers into schools is a wonderful idea, provided that schools have got electricity. Putting computers into schools is a wonderful idea, provided that that is the school's priority. You know, if you ask the school, their priority might be clean drinking water. So you need to address communities' priority needs. And then you need communities to be involved in the project. It's all very well, and it's a mistake that a lot of donors and NGOs make. They arrive somewhere and say, "We know what you need, and this is what we're going to do for you." And then they wonder why communities are not that enthusiastic about it. They need to be involved, they need to have ownership, and they need to have a residual effect that's left when the project actually moves on. So the communities are absolutely fundamental, and it's something that we sometimes lose sight of, the fact that it needs to be for the community, by the community.
So if a grant maker starts a relationship with an NGO
GO.
from this approach, how does that affect the relationship with the NGO? Does it make for a better relationship with the NGO?
Yes, I think it does. I think it's a much better relationship. It's a much more equal relationship, and actually you're likely to get better results. NGOs that are actually addressing needs are in demand in the community, and so obviously the work that they produce is more impactful and more useful, and so as a corporate it's much easier to deal with that kind of organisation.
Okay. Now, in your session, one of the questions that came up frequently was how should donors evaluate sort of smaller startup NGOs versus larger, sophisticated NGOs? How can they possibly compare the two?
Yes, I think that's something that we wrestle with all the time. You know, sometimes you get proposals that come in written on an piece of exercise sheet by hand from a small organisation that is young, it's emergent, it's relatively unsophisticated, and then at the other end of the scale you get these appeals that come in from large organisations that are quite sophisticated, that have been around for a long time. And the question always is, how do you judge the two? And the answer to that is experience and judgment. I think you need to use your judgment, and you need to look and read between the lines, really. And you also have to say to yourself, what do I expect from an organisation at this stage of its development? Is it a sophisticated organisation? Is it a big organisation? I would expect to get a certain type of proposal from that would be professional and that would have all the bells and whistles. Or is it a very young, emergent, lean, mean, hungry little machine that's just starting up and is going to grow into a large organisation? You might look at that slightly differently. You will also look at the risks implicit as well, and I guess depending on your company's or your CSI program's appetite for risk, that would be part of your judgment as well. But you do need to look at them differently. And of course there will be some in the middle of the spectrum as well. So as I say, it's something that comes with experience, and you have to apply judgment to it as well.
So what would you say to an NGO who is the young, lean, mean, hungry machine, who are nervous that they're not going to get any funding because their proposal doesn't look as professional as a bigger NGO?
I think there's two things. I always say to people, if you don't ask the question, you'll never know the answer. So don't be afraid to submit what you've got. If we don't get all the information we need, we'll come back and ask you. And everybody has to start somewhere. So I don't think the other thing, I guess, that's really important, and it's part of the way that we operate, is that you judge every appeal on its own merits. No two of them are exactly alike, so you need to judge it on its merits. Again, it comes back to experience and judgment. I think those are quite important when it comes to looking at NGOs that are applying for support.